red carpet of the year, and we can just feast our eyes on some of the very good looking and buffed up people that often make up the Oscars, the red carpet. And you know that people spend thousands on their outfits and their jewels, and that's the lead actor of the Facebook film that was nominated. That's called The Social Network. Our correspondent Rob Reynolds is watching all this happening. Rob, who's there and what have they been saying? And I know you're a pro in this. What have they been wearing?
Well, let's give you a little sense, shall we, Jane, of what's going on here. We're right at the edge of the red carpet. Things are filling up. There are a lot of people are parading through now in a sort of uncharacteristically cool evening here in the heart of Hollywood. Let's just look down here on the carpet where some of the members of the Motion Picture Academy, as well as stars, have been arriving. Of course, as you can see, there are a lot of ladies in some very, very beautiful and expensive dresses. Just a bit further over, however, not quite so glamorous. As you can see, the media of which we are a part here are all mashed in together a little bit like sardines in a can. Now, nevertheless, this is, of course, a very glamorous evening, and as you mentioned, Jane, the King's Speech, with its 12 Oscar nominations, is expected to come away with Best Picture. That's not a guarantee, but that's the betting by people in Hollywood. Its star, the star of that film, Colin Firth, also heavily tipped to win Best Actor, and for Best Actress, a lot of people are looking at Natalie Portman, the star of Black Swan. Of course, the festivities here will get underway in about 2 hours' time. We won't see the real stars and nominees, the real A-list people come in until just before that. They'll be rushed in so that they can take their seats, and then the long and lavish production will begin. We'll, of course, have the results for you as soon as we can give them to you.
Now, every year there's always somebody who feels that they must dabble in politics. Are you expecting any of that, talking about the events underway at the moment?
You know, that has been something of an Oscar tradition, but this time we don't know for certain whether that is going to happen. It seems as if the people who are actually in a position to perhaps win awards and perhaps go up to the podium and accept the awards are not those people who are most closely identified with particular causes or public campaigns. Not like, for example, the actor George Clooney, who's really made a very strong commitment on Darfur. Many other actors and celebrities and actresses have also brought forward their own personal causes. But in this time, we'll just have to wait and see. Certainly, it would be very interesting, I think, to see if any of the award winners made reference to any of the events that are going on in the Middle East. And we do know that one of the best foreign film awards is going to an Algerian films, or it has been nominated, I should say, getting ahead of myself. One of the films nominated for Best Foreign Film is from Algeria, so we'll have to see how that works out as well, Jane.
And what about trends? Every year there's a certain trend, a sort of person that they go for. I mean, considering the difficult financial year, have you seen that play out in any way, or should it play out in any way as far as the awards are concerned?
I'm sorry, Jay, could you repeat that?
Any sort of trends that you are aware of that we'll be seeing playing out?
You know, well, it's interesting because the audience research has shown that for the first time in many years, last year in 2010, that older moviegoers started to go back into the theaters in larger numbers. Now, you may know that Hollywood blockbusters, these kind of popcorn summertime flicks, are really geared towards a very young audience. Teenagers and so forth go to movies all the time. Older people, not so much, but you do see in this year's nominees, especially for Best Picture, some of these very strong, really rather dark performances. Not kid stuff, for sure, when you look at a movie like Black Swan. If you look at a movie like Winter's Bone, which is up for Best Picture. If you look at a movie like The Fighter, which is pretty strong stuff as well, up for Best Picture. So you're starting to see, at least this year, a little bit of a trend towards more character-driven, serious dramas. Now, having said that, the single best grossing picture in terms of its box office take for this year was not one of those dark dramas. It was Toy Story 3, and that became the first animated feature in history to garner more than $1 billion worldwide at the box office.
And I must say, it was a fantastic film, and the plastic doll in it absolutely petrified me. Thanks for that, Rob. We'll send you back to your sardine box. We'll be talking to you throughout the evening. That's it from Washington. Let's go back to Anand in Doha.
Thanks, Jane. And time now for a sports update with Guy.
Let's start with cricket. India and England played out a sensational match at the World Cup on Sunday to bring the event well and truly to life. India set England a winning total of 339, and the game went all the way to the very last ball. From Bangalore, Andy Richardson reports.
It was the match all India seemed to have been waiting for. The co-hosts taking on England, and a feeling this tournament was now really lifting off. Indian fans hoping their side could take another step to becoming the first team to win the world title in front of home support. India batted first, and once again it was Sachin Tendulkar leading the way for his country, easing his way to a 47th one-day century. He scored 120 as India took control. MS Dhoni and Yuvraj Singh then paired up to inflict yet more damage on England's attack. England did hit back with late wickets, but India's total of 338 looked formidable. In reply, England captain Andrew Strauss looked more than up for the task. He settled in to score his first ever World Cup century. England in with a chance. Ably assisted by Ian Bell, Strauss's England were making India look old and ordinary in the field. But late wickets were then to tumble, England stumbling when in sight of victory. 14 were needed off the final over, 2 off the last ball, only 1 was scored, so the match finished in a tie. A pulsating game, finishing with points shared.
I think both the teams will be a bit disappointed, but still, they will be a bit relieved to take 1 point out of which, because I think both the team in this game, were facing defeat at a point of time.
We've got to celebrate the fact it was an unbelievable game of cricket. Probably the best advert for 50-over format you could possibly get. So, some great performances on both sides. Both sides will be partly happy, partly sad.
Right off the 50-over game at your peril. Only this format can produce the ebb and flow of momentum and tension we've seen in this match. India's bowling looked as fragile as their batting looked flawless. England will feel they should have pushed themselves over the winning line. One thing's for sure, this Cricket World Cup is well and truly alive. Andy Richardson, AlJazeera, Bengaluru.
Now football. Inter Milan are just 2 points behind Italian Serie A leaders and City rivals AC Milan after a 2-0 victory at Sampdoria. Wesley Sneijder and Samuel Eto'o scored Inter's goals. But fourth place Lazio couldn't keep up with Inter as they lost at Cagliari. The only goal of the game came 5 minutes before half-time. Lazio's Andre Diaz put the ball into his own net to give Cagliari the 1-0 win. New Roma coach Vincenzo Montella's first match in charge ended in a draw against Parma. Francesco Totti scored an early penalty to give Roma the lead before Juan dos Santos put the home side 2 up at half-time. But Parma came back strongly in the second half. Amaury Carvalho scored both their goals as the match ended 2-2. In England, Birmingham City won their first domestic trophy in almost half a century thanks to a shock victory over Arsenal in the English League Cup final. Birmingham's recent signing, Obafemi Martins, turned out to be the match winner as Arsenal's 6-year trophy drought continues.
The first major silverware of the season in England up for grabs at Wembley. And few observers gave relegation-threatened Birmingham City a hope against Arsenal. But it was they who took the lead on 28 minutes. Giant striker Nikola Zigic able to convert Roger Johnson's flick-on from a corner kick. It didn't take Arsenal long to get back on level terms though, 11 minutes in fact, as Andrei Arshavin crossed for Robin van Persie to volley the equaliser. In a superb second half, Arsenal looked the more likely winners. But with extra time looming, Zigic flicked the ball on for substitute Obafemi Martins. The Nigerian, who'd only been on the pitch 6 minutes, took advantage of miscommunication in the Arsenal defence to win the League Cup for his side. Contrasting emotions at the final whistle for Birmingham manager Alex McLeish and his Arsenal counterpart Arsene Wenger, as Arsenal's 6-year trophy drought continues. But Birmingham's players and fans won't care about that as they celebrate their club's first major trophy in almost 50 years.
And that's the sport for now. Back to you.
Thanks, Guy, and stay with us here on Al Jazeera. We'll update the headlines right after the break. See you in a moment.
Hello again. Brazil again is looking very, very wet at the moment. On the satellite picture, you can see this bright white cloud here that's all gradually making its way northwards, and it is making its way up towards parts of Venezuela and Colombia. Torrentially heavy downpours there, and another clump of cloud there making its way through parts of Peru. Now, many of these countries have already seen some flooding, and it looks like the wet weather will continue as we head through Monday. Heavy downpours again, particularly in the northeastern parts of Brazil here, but also the rain's now pepping up down towards Rio and Sao Paulo once more as well. For Buenos Aires, though, here it should be dry and pretty hot. Our temperatures making it up to around 30 degrees. As we head towards the southern parts of Africa, there's lots of wet weather here at the moment. Still very heavy downpours there across many parts of Madagascar. Then that crosses through parts of Mozambique and all the way across into Angola. Torrential downpours out of that. The heaviest are going to be here in the east. Further south, that's where it should be a lot drier and brighter. Durban there will get to around 28 degrees during the day, and that's 82 in Fahrenheit. Now here in Doha, there's been a fair amount of cloud, a couple of spots of rain recently, and it looks like it will still be a little bit grey at times on Monday. The cloud, though, does get thicker as it works its way eastwards, and it does turn to snow there over parts of northern India and Afghanistan.
Behind the harsh reality of headline stories, creative forces are constantly developing. Across the globe, people use their talents, their imagination, and their vision to break down powerful barriers. From a small backroom theater challenging a despotic regime to the courage of individuals searching for expression. With rich colors and clear voices, people communicate to a wider world. Artscape, coming soon on Al Jazeera.
If you're a Nokia user, you can download Al Jazeera's news widget from Nokia's Ovis store. The news widget, available on compatible Nokia devices, gives users quick and easy access to real-time news updates from Al Jazeera English. See the world in real time. Al Jazeera Mobile.
They're calling it Free Libya, scenes from the front in the battle to remove Muammar Gaddafi from power. Hello, I'm Anand Naidu, and this is Al Jazeera live from Doha. Also on the program, new clashes in the streets and a new prime minister in office in Tunisia. Making a revolution more than just a slogan, we take a look at who is taking on the task of rewriting Egypt's constitution. And from a stuttering king to a paranoid prima ballerina to a man stuck in a hole. The story's up for Hollywood's highest honor. Targets named, bank accounts frozen, travel bans imposed, and the opposition is closing in. Muammar Gaddafi and his inner circle appear increasingly isolated in Libya. This as the area is reported to be under control now of anti-government forces. In the middle of it all, the capital, Tripoli, increasingly a lonely outpost for Gaddafi. But the Libyan leader still has some support. Just outside the capital, Gaddafi loyalists took to the streets waving posters and chanting slogans. Outside the city of Zawiya in western Libya, there were similar scenes. The city centre is in anti-government hands, but the protesters say pro-Gaddafi forces are preparing to launch a counter-offensive against them. Jackie Rowland reports from Benghazi.
The town of AlJazeera lies just 50 kilometres to the west of Tripoli.